The Trump administration has just expelled South Africa's ambassador to the United States, Ebrahim Rasool. He has 7 days to leave the country. Why? And why now? This is not just a diplomatic fallout. It's a continuation of a much bigger story. And yes, it affects you. This is a follow-up to our video, Trump's Fury with South Africa U.S. Economic Fallout Explained. If you haven't watched that, go check it out. But today, we dig deeper. Let's rewind to February 7th, 2025. President Trump signs a sweeping executive order cutting off aid to South Africa and offering asylum to white Afrikaners, claiming that South Africa's land reform policies violate human rights. Trump has repeatedly targeted South Africa, portraying its white minority as victims of post-apartheid land reforms. The order denounced South Africa's Expropriation Act for allowing the government to seize farmland from Afrikaners without compensation. Bear in mind that despite being only 7% of the population, white Afrikaners still own over 70% of private farmland. Trump called it racial discrimination, and his administration began resettling Afrikaner refugees in the U.S., but this so-called humanitarian gesture sparked outrage across the globe and drew sharp criticism from South African officials and white South Africans. To fully understand Trump's hostility towards South Africa, it's important to revisit its racial and political history. Afrikaners, a Dutch-descended ethnic group, ruled South Africa under white supremacist apartheid laws from the late 1940s until the system collapsed in 1994. In the 1980s, the U.S. imposed economic sanctions on the Afrikaner-led government, significantly contributing to the end of apartheid. Just a few months ago, Ebrahim Rasool was appointed as South Africa's ambassador to the U.S. Rasool is a former anti-apartheid activist, a prominent Muslim leader, an ally of Nelson Mandela, and someone with deep ties to South Africa's governing ANC. He previously served as South Africa's ambassador to the U.S. from 2010 to 2015 during Barack Obama's presidency. Now he was reappointed in 2024 due to his previous experience and extensive network of Washington contacts. South Africa has called the decision to expel Rasool regrettable. He's been a vocal critic of Trump's policies, including the refugee ban and more recently the executive order on South Africa. But what triggered his expulsion? A webinar. Yes, a webinar. During a virtual event hosted by South Africa's Mapungubwe Institute, Rasool accused Trump of promoting a white supremacist response to demographic diversity in America. That didn't go unnoticed. Secretary of State Marco Rubio posted on X, calling Rasool a race-baiting politician who hates America. And now, we know more. According to a March 17th State Department press briefing led by spokesperson Tammy Bruce, the decision was not just a tweet. It was formal. Bruce confirmed that on the same day as the announcement, senior U.S. diplomats summoned South African embassy officials to deliver a formal diplomatic notice declaring Rasool persona non grata. His diplomatic privileges expired on Monday, and he now has until Friday to leave the country. When asked why such a dramatic step was taken, more drastic than what was done even during peak tensions with Russia, Bruce said Rasool's remarks were not just criticism, but accusations of white supremacy against the president and the country itself. She called the comments obscene and said the United States expects a standard of low-level respect from any diplomat stationed here. Let's be real. This isn't just about Rasool. It's about South Africa itself, its land reform policies, its support for Palestine, its resistance to U.S. pressure. Trump and his allies have painted South Africa as a threat to Western values, when in truth, South Africa's progressive constitution stands in stark contrast to the growing authoritarianism in the West. South Africa guarantees housing, healthcare, food security, and fair labor rights. It calls for land reform to undo the spatial apartheid that still exists. And yes, it criticizes Israel, just as it once criticized apartheid. That makes it inconvenient to Trump's agenda. Here's why this matters to you. South Africa is the United States' second largest trading partner in Africa. American companies rely on South African platinum, gold, and critical minerals. Diplomatic fallout could trigger economic sanctions, damaging American businesses and causing price hikes in cars, electronics, and energy. Expelling Rasool isn't just petty diplomacy. It's a move that risks jobs, trade, and U.S. influence on the continent. And for what? Political theater? An effort to appease the far right? President Ramaphosa says he's expecting a full report from Rasool. Meanwhile, South Africa's government of national unity is under pressure to respond, but with caution. Analysts warn that if tensions escalate, the U.S. may impose targeted economic sanctions that could cost South Africa up to 400,000 jobs. Spokesperson Tammy Bruce made it clear this is not just about decorum. It's about what the U.S. calls a series of actions by South Africa that are against American interests. The expropriation bill, cozying up to Russia and Iran, and accusing Israel of genocide at the ICJ. All of this, she said, is part of a wider review of the United States-South Africa relationship. South Africa may pivot even further toward China and Russia. BRICS could strengthen. U.S. global influence could weaken. This is more than a squabble. This is a geopolitical shift. The expulsion of Ambassador Rasool is a warning sign. If the U.S. continues down this path, it may lose a key ally, damage its economy, and isolate itself further on the world stage. If you found this video informative, share it. Comment below. Do you think the expulsion was justified or a calculated revenge move against a government that has historically challenged white nationalist ideologies? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more insights from the Political Breakdown. See you in the next video.